What does it take to grow a company from 150 million to over $1 billion without losing the culture, values, and loyalty that built it? Today, we sit down with a leader who's done just that. Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we spotlight bold leaders reshaping industry through innovation, strategy, and grit. I'm your host, Dr. Leanne Aguilar, and today I'm joined by Skip Giessing, president of the Rotating Equipment Division at DXP Enterprises, a company known for delivering essential products and services across industrial and municipal markets worldwide. From his early days in the Navy to building and selling his own company, and now leading one of the largest divisions at DXP. Skip's story is one of loyalty, entrepreneurial spirit, and the power of long-term thinking. Skip, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Leon. Happy to be here.
You've had a remarkable career path from the Naval Academy to owning your own company and now leading a billion-dollar division at DXP. What first drew you into the industrial world?
Well, when I was in college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I feel like my time served in the Navy after I graduated from Annapolis did a lot to shape, my future because I was dealing with industrial products all the time on that submarine that I was on. And after I resigned my commission and I stayed in the Naval Reserve for another 23 years. But I was constantly dealing with, pumps, vacuum pumps, compressors, and other sort of things on that submarine. And so when I got out, I started interviewing with a lot of companies that were manufacturing those products and settled on Ingersoll Rand, a pump group, and that was in 1978. But I didn't stay with them very long because, unfortunately, I was not really in favor of their culture. It really was not a good culture, not a happy culture, and not the kind of culture that I wanted to spend my career in. So I went to work for their distributor, and that distributor that I went to work with, and by this was in St. Louis. That distributor, I ended up being the VP of sales, and then ended up acquiring the company, and I acquired the company in 1988, and I had a part of the company prior to that from 1984 to 1988. So I had a leadership position in that company for 24 years. And it was what really shaped who I am, because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about are things that I learned, through that experience. I mean, being with DXP, I'm working for a gentleman named David Little, who he and I have gone to a lot of sales meetings together and got to know each other well. And that led to his offering me to come in and be president of Southern Engine and Pump Company, which is what the name of his business was until he took it public in 1997. And so he wanted me to run the base company, and he was going to worry about growing DXP Enterprises. I couldn't do it because my wife was pregnant and I had all kinds of other personal things. So I waited until I got to a point where I was ready to sell my business. And then I called David and asked him if he was still ready to hire me. Mm-hmm. And I think that was my move to DXP was probably one of the best moves I, made, because it got me from being an owner of a small distribution company to having the potential to build a big business, a very big business within DXP. And that's my rotating equipment division. And I had the luxury of the fact that DXP started out in 1908 as Southern Engine and Pump Company, but it started out as a pump distribution company and a process compressor company. Mm-hmm. And so long history of rotating equipment at Southern Engine and Pump Company, and then DXP. And he gave me the keys to grow that division. And and I have, and I haven't done it all on my own. I mean, I have to use the collective power of DXP and other people, when we have, like we're going to talk about inorganic growth, and, when we have opportunities for inorganic growth, but organically, obviously, David and I had very similar goals. We wanted to build a national pump company, national distribution company, and we have done just that. And we'll talk about Municipal at some point in time as well, because our intentions are the same with the municipal business.
Yeah. So I really hear that you had, alignment in your values, in the culture that turned into the loyalty and long-term commitment with the company. How has your philosophy shaped your leadership style over the years regarding culture and long-term commitment?
Well, first of all, when you own your own business, that's a long-term commitment, and I had a lot of experience with that. But loyalty is also something that is really really important. My salespeople in my business that I owned were all very loyal to me, and we worked very well together. And I just kind of got into a cadence of understanding what it takes to build a company, a small business to begin with, and really it wasn't that big of a switch once I got into DXP. One of the things though that David told me when he hired me, the first meeting I had with him after I was his employee, he said, "Okay, Skip, I want you to wait about 4 months before you make any big decisions because I really want you to understand the culture of our company." Okay,
Hmm.
no matter how many times I've had conversations with David prior to that, he's a real culture guy. He wants everybody in DXP. We're called DX people, and that's a term that David came up with years ago. And I was grateful that he gave me that little bit of time to really go around, talk to a lot of people, and understand what I could do, couldn't do. I didn't break any rules or anything like that, but I just was dead set to grow the division. That was going to happen over. And if you have time for a very quick little story here, he introduced me 2 months after he hired me. I was at an actual vendor national sales meeting in Florida, and he introduced me. And he told the rest of his senior staff what I was going to be doing in my position and so on and so forth. And then he moved on from me. He said, "Well, I'm going to also have a bearing and PT leader." And then he went on about a 2 or 3 minute discussion about bearing and power transmission, about how it's so massive and it's such a big market opportunity and everything. And then he said, "I'm pretty sure that's going to become our largest division in the company." And I was still on the phone, and I said, David, I'm still here, David, over my dead body. And I'm going to tell
You're
you
like,
something.
yeah,
That really motivated me.
right.
Okay.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Challenge accepted. Absolutely. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it's worked out well.
Yeah, yeah. So he gave you time, that's interesting, to really understand the culture and just, I mean, because the culture, what I'm hearing, is really foundational. Tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, what were the values or the tenets of the culture that stood out to you and that you learned were the most, important before really taking on the role?
Well, DXP is a distribution company, an industrial distribution and now municipal distribution company. And um, I'm not going to say there are no rules because there are a lot of rules. I mean, every corporation has corporate rules. But in our case, since we wanted to be a national distributor, you have to accept the fact that at all of different various regions that we have, which were, I think, 12 or 13 regions in North America, there's going to be different styles, different objectives, and we always want our leaders to be very entrepreneurial. Okay, because we can't establish this is how we do things and this is the way we're going to do them everywhere because it's not going to work. Because the attitudes, the people that we are dealing with and I'm talking about customers here primarily, not only do they have different attitudes about things, but they also have different requirements from an equipment standpoint. And so we need our leaders in all of those, our sales leaders in all of those various regions to be constantly thinking entrepreneurially as a way of how am I going to grow my business? I've got this standard footprint that I can do, and that's great. But if I really want to grow it, then I've really got to be thinking out of the box. Another thing I want to say is that we constantly are training our salespeople. We're constantly training them on sales processes, but we're also training them in terms of leadership. Okay.
Hmm.
Because our regional VPs, whether they're sales or ops VPs, they all need to be leaders, and they are. By the way, we have great leaders all across our country, all across our distribution footprint, and and it's and I believe the fact that we review all of our regions on a quarterly basis. The regions get a lot of good feedback, but we also get a whole lot of good ideas from the regions that I can take a lot of those ideas and I can spread them out to a lot of other regions in terms of, hey, have you ever thought of this, or have you ever tried something like this? We might have a few successes in a different region and so on. So I'm constantly talking with the regions to try to provide them with additional ideas on how to grow their business.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you're really encouraging that entrepreneurial mindset and providing a lot of training. Now, the people that are the leaders in those positions, would you say they already have an aptitude for leadership, or is that something that they start somewhere else and you're really molding them and bringing them into the leadership space?
Well, they already have an aptitude for leadership. Okay. But they grew that aptitude in many cases within their time at DXP. They didn't come in necessarily as a regional sales VP or an ops VP initially, but they worked their way up into a position where they were taking on tasks and they were meeting deadlines and they were doing really good work. And so, we would rather promote from within than bring people out, from the outside. And it's not to say that we don't do that, bring people from the outside in, but for the most part, we're spending a lot of time developing our own people, and
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's worked really well.
Right. So that goes back to the loyalty and
Yep.
the creating of fostering that long-term environment and commitment. So when you sold your company and transitioned into DXP, what mindset shifts were most important for making that move successfully?
The biggest mindset was, I'm no longer a small business. I'm a big business. Okay. And you got to be thinking big, even though a lot of the procedures and strategies that you might employ, you could employ in a small company and a big company. But my whole attitude was building this nationally. Okay. When I joined the company, we didn't have all of our national footprint in place. And so, that was another thing that, I got involved with to a certain extent with my CEO, my CFO, currently not also a COO. In order for me to grow, it became very obvious that, I can grow a certain amount organically, but honestly, I need the inorganic piece of that as well. And that's something that I had to learn, and it wasn't that hard to learn necessarily, but it was something I'd never done before. Let's put it
Hmm.
that way. Go
So
ahead.
tell me more. What does that mean, the inorganic piece?
Well, let me first of all explain the organic piece. The organic
Okay.
piece is doing business, growing your business, trying to grow your business 10%, let's say, every year somehow through salesmanship and new products that you might bring in that give you additional opportunity. And inorganic is also very vital because there are constantly distributorships across the country that are selling their businesses. And who do they sell them to? Well, back in 2008, when I came to DXP, I really didn't have a good idea of who they were selling to, but it became very obvious to me because we were right at a point where we really started to acquire companies on an ongoing basis. And David had a goal and still has a goal, most likely, that he'd like to have 10% growth organically, 10% growth inorganic, because if we could do that 4 years in a row, we would have doubled our company.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so
So
we're
it's like by
so
acquisitions, by acquiring other
so
complementary businesses.
yes,
Yeah.
you can't get there if you're just organically growing.
Right.
The other thing that's important about that is that those inorganic acquisitions, they sort of we have to think that, they have already a very similar culture to us, maybe. And we think that we can develop our overall culture into that new acquisition without screwing them up.
Hmm.
Okay. Because whenever we acquire a company, David also always used to say, still does, is that we're going to do three things. We're not going to screw you up. We're not going to screw you up. We're not going to screw you up. Okay. So that means, hey, you're part of our team now, but we're not going to be putting all kinds of pressure on you, changing all kinds of things, because that's not really the goal. The goal is you continue doing what you're doing. We love you. Okay. And over time, you're going to make the decisions primarily, you, Mr. New distributor that we just acquired,
Yeah.
to incorporate many more of our types of policies and procedures and strategies. And you'll do that on your own accord. And we don't even tell them that they have to change their name to DXP. We don't give them any kind of timeline that they need to
Huh.
do that. But typically that's about a 2-year average Uh, Sometimes it can be a lot more soon, or a lot of times, sometimes it's a little bit longer. But the region or the new acquisition makes the decision on when they are going to change their name. We
How
don't
like it
force it.
yeah.
We don't force it.
Okay. So how that transition looks is just gonna vary by organization or by company that you acquire, by acquisition.
Right.
Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, even when you're talking about, like, the entrepreneurial nature of the organization, and so, I mean, how else does that look in practice? And how else would you foster that entrepreneurial essence in spirit across the teams?
Well, I'd like to say that because we have a hand in obviously choosing our leaders in all the various regions. That we I'm sure whether we bring it up or we don't bring it up necessarily in an interview, uh, we're pretty sure we know that this particular person has the ability to accept new ideas, and that's being entrepreneurial, because most of the entrepreneurial activity is activity that's not going on, and now we want to bring that into the overall scope of everything that we do in a particular region, or more than one region. And so, but we need those ideas too, because we have a limited number of brain power in the senior staff of DXP, and we really make use of our quarterly planning meetings, to learn a lot more about opportunities. And I'm constantly taking notes about good opportunities that I heard for the first time. And so I don't come up with the ideas all the time, and neither does anybody else. It's a collaboration, but we make
Right.
available to all of our regions, good ideas. Okay, so uh, and I guess I don't have anything else to add to that.
Well, but that makes sense, like, really listening and fostering that culture of innovation, I guess even, or encouraging the different division leaders to participate, taking their ideas to heart and
Yeah,
sharing them and making sure they're integrated across the board. That's what I'm hearing.
correct.
Yeah, yeah. So Skip, under your leadership, DXP's rotating equipment division has grown from roughly 150 million to over $1 billion. What have been the biggest drivers behind that growth?
Okay, well, first of all, that's a great question. First of all, I've been in the industry already 30 plus years, and Um, I knew all the pump companies. I knew their leaders. I knew all of the major players for all of the major manufacturers. But also, I was pretty aware of many distributors all across the USA, just because I'd meet them at various sales meetings and things like that. So I already had a pretty good idea of attitudes and culture and things like that from people that were in territories that I didn't that we didn't really have anybody there yet. But I also was very driven to maintain the rotating equipment division as the largest division at DXP, and that, as long as I'm here, will never change. And I'll do everything in my power to continue to widen the gap. And of course, those are things that I know David appreciates. And so, and I have an attitude of success and not an attitude of failure. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I'm not going to say failure is not an option. That's a pretty cliche, but the fact is that I don't take something on with the concern that I'm going to fail. I'm really thinking I'm going to win. Okay.
uh-huh,
And I'm going to win because we have everything at DXP that any distributor could possibly want, in terms of upping their game and becoming a larger distributor because they're now part of DXP. We have products that if they need products, I can get them products. I can get them. May not be the same product that we have in Houston. It could be a different product. But as far as product categories are concerned, and being able to bid in ANSI or API type applications, I know that's maybe not going to make sense to a lot of people, but centrifugal pump applications, or a wide array of positive displacement pump type applications, I want to make sure that every one of the regions has a full portfolio. Okay.
uh-huh.
And it doesn't always start out that way. And So I'm constantly working with the leadership in those regions, advising them on things that they might want to consider to grow their business, and I could help them do that. Okay, and so I think it was very difficult for a lot of the regions to say, "Oh no, I don't want to do that." No, they want to do that, and you're going to help me. Oh my God, okay, that's great. Okay, but so now the shape of our national distribution company looks more like anywhere you go, we can handle any of these applications because we have everybody has the full product suite in order
Right.
to carry out any of the applications that apply.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like, yeah, you're very intentional about making that
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
And yeah. You've weathered challenges though, like economic downturns and even natural disasters early in your career. How did those experiences shape your perspective on resilience and risk?
Resilience. I love that word. In 1993, I was in San Diego on a Saturday, and I was at a Navy function in my Naval Reserve career. And I was stepping out of the shower, and I'm drying my back, and I'm looking at the TV on CNN, and I see this big word that says Chesterfield, Missouri. Well, my business was in Chesterfield, Missouri. Okay. And I found out then that we were having a 300-year flood in the St. Louis area, but all the levees were holding and everything was okay until the very end. And the levee busted down in the Chesterfield area, and all of the businesses that were down there all of a sudden had 10 feet of water in their
Oh
organization.
no.
So all of my machine shop equipment is underwater. Most of my inventory is underwater, and my office. The way this flood came through, it just swept everything out of my office. Okay, I had all kinds of Navy crap all over my walls, and my commands and all that kind of stuff. Lost it all. Lost it all. And
Oh
initially,
wow.
it was like, I can't, I'm so deflated. No, you know what those were? They were plaques. They were, didn't mean anything to anybody else other than me. And I still had plenty of time left in my Naval Reserve career to get new plaques. Okay.
Hmm.
And to have commands and other sort of things that were important to me. But what that showed me, I mean, I had my team uh, in my house the next day, and we were conducting business. Okay, I'm on the phone with all the manufacturers. I'm doing everything I can to get them to work with me. You know,
Yeah,
hey,
right.
this is we didn't do this. This is a natural disaster, and there were several manufacturers that worked with me, but at the end of the day, we could never use that facility again. Had to buy a whole new, uh, bigger facility, and I ended up with about $2.5 million worth of debt. Okay, that I didn't have,
Yeah.
and so then that shows me, you know, uh, where somebody might say, $2.5 million of debt. What, you know, you're going to go bankrupt? No, we didn't go bankrupt. We continued our business. We kept making money. We kept paying back the loan. The only thing that it really kept me from doing was being able to acquire other companies because I had a fairly large debt to equity ratio.
Hmm.
Okay. And,
Right.
and so banks would not lend me the money to make some acquisitions that I wanted to make. And so I was kind of grateful when I went to DXP because now I can get more busy in that end of the business as well. And I certainly have played a role in doing
Right.
that. So that taught me, calm down. You're going to be okay. I had great employees who got on board right away, and it was, just it ended up being a pretty cool experience. Except I was in the hole $2.5 million.
Right. I know. So you had to adjust your strategy. It made you get creative in ways to overcome that situation. And so you just had to grow in different ways,
Well,
I
we just
guess,
had to recover.
recover. Yeah.
We had all of our equipment refurbished. We had to return a lot of inventory and purchase a lot of other inventory and other sort of things. But we lost a lot of our records.
Mm,
They were flooded and turned into mush.
right.
Um, but um, everybody, yeah, we re- we recovered.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
recovered.
So now DXB is expanded into the the municipal sector, like we mentioned
Mhm.
before. So that's a major diversification move. What drove that decision, and what do you have you learned from that?
Well, we had very good success becoming a national industrial distribution company. Okay, and so we knew how to you know grow the. We could use the same you know types of procedures that we used when we were acquiring companies and growing companies in a municipal. It's just something that we never really did because we were so consumed industrially. All right, and I think we all thought at some point in time we're going to get more involved in this. Well, it was a 3-year recession in 2015 to 2017 that really convinced us that we needed to do things differently because we were too dependent on the oil and gas industry.
Hmm.
And we tried very hard to not be dependent to that degree. Okay, but at the same time, we're not going to turn down opportunities if we have a very strong oil and gas market. But
Right.
we had a 3-year recession in oil and gas, and so all of a sudden, we're losing markets. We're losing our size, of our company is because we're no longer able to keep getting orders because so many of those orders were oil and gas oriented. Okay, that's a very crude way of saying that. I understand. It's not like we weren't trying to do other things, but
But
so we
demand
made
decreased. Yeah, you had a
so
demand
we
decrease.
decided so we decided, Leon, we said, there's some markets that we're not really playing in that are almost recession proof, similar to like food and
Hmm.
beverage or water and wastewater. Okay. And so we acquired a company in Florida. I want to say we probably did that in 2019, 2020, somewhere around that range. And the leader of that company is very well known throughout the U.S. and very well known with all of these major municipal manufacturers and so forth. And so we gave him the mantle in terms of finding other companies that we can acquire, and systematically we're acquiring a lot of these companies. I think we're up to about 13, 14 companies now. I think 14 companies that we've acquired, and our goal is the same goal that we had when we were doing we're concentrating solely on industrial business. And the other thing that's great about this is that we have a big service and repair capability. We have
Hmm.
we have over 80 shops across the USA and Canada. Okay, and that's very profitable business, and it's part of the reason why we continue to grow is because we're growing that part of our business. But here comes the municipal industry. Many of those companies are rep organizations, not distributors. So we get to bring them into the fold, and then they start feeding more of their repair work into our local shops, and that's just another way that we add revenue and growth to our my overall rotating equipment business.
Yeah. And the industrial landscape has shifted dramatically over the years, and not just because of like the ups and downs in the economy, but also because of technology and supply chain and customer expectations. How have you adapted to stay ahead?
Well, you know, little steps at a time. Okay, we and we keep our eyes and ears open to all kinds of things that say some of our competitors are doing, or maybe other, like when we were in the Gould's family, Gould's Pumps family. We would always share a lot of ideas with each other on ways to grow the business. So we got in a habit of really learning from others, and also I think um, I don't think I guess I would say that would be probably the primary way that we um, we're into supply chain. We're into supply chain in that we have a whole segment of our company, which is called supply chain services, and has been in place since 1997.
Hmm.
So it's not like, we're new in that, but how can we learn how to do it better? Well, there's other companies that do that. And again, we learn from our competition. We learn from our wins and our losses on what works and what doesn't work. And we have enough uh, points where we get feedback from when you're all across the USA. You get a lot of ideas, okay,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't get if you were just in one kind of local portion of the country.
Yeah.
So, um, and we're not afraid. We're not afraid to start something new if we understand it.
Hmm.
Okay, if we understand it, then we're going to do just fine. And we
Right.
have good. We have a lot of good people also that are what you might call support, but we've got a great chief information officer. We've got a great chief marketing officers. We got a lot of really smart people in key roles that sometimes appear behind the scenes that do a lot of work to help us become more relevant in some of those new opportunities.
Yeah. So you have a wide spread. I mean, from what I understand, like more than 200 locations across or
I
North
believe it's
America,
230 right now.
230, North America and beyond as well. Are
Uh,
you?
yeah, you could say that, but we have a little bit of a footprint over in the Middle East, in
Uh-huh.
Dubai, and in India, and in Saudi Arabia, and we're happy to expand that. That's mostly what we call API, American Petroleum Institute type business.
Hmm.
But recently we've added our major gear pump. We've been asked to distribute over there, and maybe that's the beginning of maybe blossoming out that whole opportunity over there. Um, but we're not in a rush, and I'm not obviously forcing anybody to do anything. I'm bringing them opportunities. Would you like to do this? Okay, and in most cases, um, they say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So with so many locations, how do you balance local autonomy and encourage that entrepreneurial spirit with unified strategy?
Well, first of all, I think it's because when we are having our quarterly meetings with all of our regions, we get excellent feedback from them. But they also show us their P&L, and we see if the P&L is meeting, first of all, their expectations, but also our expectations. And and so you have a way of encouraging regions to do things one way or another, um, when their numbers are not where they need to be. Okay, you get the opportunity to speak with a lot of people that are sitting in the conference room during the planning meeting that might have some great ideas for you to fix whatever your issue is that you have, with your growth or with whatever it is. And it doesn't really happen a lot, by the way. But if somebody's falling behind, um, they know they're behind, and we also remind them that they're behind. Okay, I normally don't do that, but David would do that, or Nick, our chief operating officer, might do that, and I
Hmm.
guess I might do that every once in a while also. But my voice is not as powerful as those two voices. Okay, because we have that entrepreneurial spirit. So I'm not really telling them what to do, but I'm saying to them, hey, what you're doing right now, it's not working. Okay.
Right.
So we need to think about what we're going to do differently. I might have some ideas. Do you have any ideas? And then we start that discussion. Okay. Again, we're right in the middle of planning these meetings right now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And so far, the results that we're seeing are not all that bad. Okay. And so we don't really have to make a lot of changes necessarily. Okay. We still might try to bring in new ideas. Okay.
Yeah.
During these planning meetings, but we're certainly not saying what you're doing, you got to change. Okay. Unless you're not meeting our corporate objectives in terms of
Right.
sales growth and
Yeah.
and
So if it's not
EBITDA.
broken, you don't have to fix it.
Right. Right.
But it's basically like looking at the numbers, making sure they're meeting the corporate expectations. And if they are, then that's great. And if not, you offer support in providing ideas and listening to their ideas and how to, I guess, turn things around and
When
to
you're
meet
when
those
you're a
numbers.
national or a North American distribution company, it's impossible to have everybody do exactly the same thing because their
Of
markets are
course.
different, their
Right.
requirements are different, their product requirements are different. And so we work our way through all of that. But then, okay, now you gotta produce now, okay?
Hmm.
Because we have an overall corporate goal because we're a publicly traded company and we got to continue to grow or else our stock plummets, okay? And that's not something that we really want. We don't really enjoy that, okay? So
Of course not. Yeah, you've got
of
to.
course not.
No, nobody likes that.
All right.
Yeah. So, what do you see as the next major opportunities or challenges for DXP and the broader industrial distribution industry?
Well, first of all, of course, we're going to finish our municipal objective. All right, we're going to definitely do that. We can continue to work on the growth of our service and repair piece. Okay, um, uh, because uh, there are a lot of areas. The more business you get, the greater capabilities you need to have in your service and repair facilities. Okay, and it's the regions that pay for that capability. It's not necessarily a corporate uh, capital expense. uh, because the regions are the ones that are going to get the benefit from having a much greater, more capable, more field service type activities that are going to bring them a lot of revenue and a lot of profitability. And maybe in some cases, maybe that's the reason why they're not, if somebody's not meeting their objective, that might be one of the reasons why. Uh, Not necessarily is that always true, but you can explore the different types of things that we do. I mean, we have a controls and automation piece now that we are uh, uh, we're going to get this to where it's going to be a really cool capability that we're going to have where when we quote things, we're going to be able to quote not just our equipment, but we can quote all the controls and or any automation that applies.
Yeah.
Uh, and double the order size or things like that. And then we have a new vacuum pump and blowers initiative where we brought in an expert and we're right now we're building our organization to grow a lot more vacuum pump and blower
Hmm.
business nationally, which may not have been when somebody thought of DXP. I'm not sure that would have ever come out of their mouth that, oh yeah, you're the vacuum pump and blower guys. No, but we intend to be.
Hmm.
Okay, so here again, we're on the beginning stages of this. Um, we're already seeing a little bit of success because our sales teams are concentrating on it more, and I'm only speaking for rotating equipment when I speak of these things. Okay, because we have other divisions and they have the same sorts of questions and objectives and entrepreneurial activity, but um, so
Yeah. So yeah, just integrating new technology and expanding your offerings, new
getting new
product
products
lines,
that get
new
us into
pro.
different markets. Okay,
Hmm.
so we've had some successes in that recently also. So
Okay, expanding into new verticals.
yeah,
You've built your career on consistency and deep relationships. What advice would you give to your younger or to younger professionals who tend to move quickly from job to job?
yeah, that's a shame. First of all, that's a shame because um, it's not something that the senior staff at DXP is necessarily monitoring or managing. It's really a regional responsibility to develop their people. And so I'm going to say that if we're not spending enough time working with our salespeople, because typically, by the way, it's not only salespeople that leave early, it could be a lot of ops people that do as well for whatever reason. If they're not happy about something, well, I think I could tell when somebody's not happy. I think you could tell when somebody's not happy. And so I think that, one of the things that DXP does is I think we talk to those people a little bit more often and we try to find out what is the issue. Okay.
Hmm.
Because when they go from job to job every 2 years, they're ruining their long-term career. You understand this, okay? I mean, Now they go from what looked like a pretty good job at DXP into another company and stay there the rest of their career. Okay, that I get. But when you're constantly changing jobs, your resume looks like, you know, very bad. Looks very bad. Okay. And it looks like, well, if I hire you, you're only going to be here about 2 or 3 years and you're going to leave again because this is,
Yeah,
no,
you
this is
don't want to
what you
invest
do.
in the person, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So,
exactly.
so we're careful. We're careful about that, but we still will hire people, but then we will hire them and understand that they may be anxious and try to counsel them as often as we can.
Yeah,
Uh,
so there's not a risk of flight,
yeah,
early
because
flight.
people are extremely important to any organization, not just DXP.
Right.
And you know, we hire good people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that we hire very good people. So it's when I lose a very good person, it's like, why did I lose that
Yeah, it's
person?
hard. It
Come
is because you
on.
invest in them and they've invested in you and they understand your
Right.
company and there's the
Exactly.
relationship aspects. And so what do you look for when you are hiring leaders within your organizations? What qualities are you looking for?
You know, short of the resume review, um, I'd like to, you know, I don't, I don't do a lot of the interviews, by the way. But if I was, I would, and I think this is going on, by the way. People are evaluating the character of the person. Okay, um, you know, the words that they say have a lot to do with shaping what they do, and so I think we have a great HR department. They kind of set the table for the regions in terms of candidates that maybe, you know, we get past the drug thing or the DWI thing or any of this other sort of stuff. Here's your candidates. And then they leave it up to the region or to the department that's trying to hire those persons. So I want to be able to look somebody in the eye and believe what he says.
Mhm.
I want honesty. I want experience. Okay, if I can get it, the most experience that I can get, and so we'll have a conversation about experience. He won't just say, "Oh, I'm very experienced." No, we're going to talk in detail. What is that experience? And if he can't explain it, then he's making it up, and then we go to the next candidate. Okay,
Right.
so I need the integrity, I need the experience, I need the polish. Okay, because especially when we're talking about salespeople, if they can't complete a sentence, I mean, they're not going to succeed. And so how they communicate on that in that interview has a lot to do with, you know, the region's desire to hire them, because when we need somebody, we just don't take the first guy. Obviously, you would know that, um, but we're really looking for really good people. And but we are a company that has very high values, that has high integrity, where our senior management really takes care of all of their people. We do, you know, as an example, when you're an employee at DXP and you've been there for 10 years, you get a gold ring with a diamond in it.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
You get a
Uh-huh.
gold ring and it's got DXP on the side and all this stuff. And then every 5 years after that, you get another diamond. Okay. Now, that gold ring is not some little flimsy thing. Okay. It's a pretty big ring. Okay. And it's just like, wow, uh, listen, I love being here. You don't really need to do this, but wow,
Yeah.
that's what DXP does. Now, they don't do it to keep people. They do it because they genuinely love their people.
Yeah, an
And,
acknowledgement and, yeah, an
and
appreciation. Mhm.
yeah, yeah, because I can't tell you, I've had to pass down, you know, or give rings to a lot of people that have worked for me, and they just can't believe that they're getting this ring. I mean, most times, you know, people get a certificate or something, you know, but no, that this ring, they'll use that, they'll wear that ring the rest of their lives.
Yeah, wow.
You know, so it's just an example of DX people and how we want to care for our DX people.
Yeah. So looking back over your journey from the Navy to entrepreneurship to executive leadership, what lessons or values have stayed with you, through it all?
Well, I think one of the things is consistency, And if you say you're going to do something, do it. Okay. Um, you need to be, and you need to be honest with people. And whether that's my suppliers or that's salespeople that or other employees at DXP, um, I work very hard to try to make sure that they are informed. But I also think there's a work ethic that also is important. Okay, and the fact that even if I'm working from my home, that I'm putting in 8 hours. Okay, uh, and I'm getting things done. Okay, and the minute somebody thinks that's not happening with an employee, then that's not good for the employee. Okay, because they never want to leave that impression that they're only working, a couple hours a day.
Right.
And the other thing is that I don't want complainers. I don't want people that complain about the company. Okay, I want people that are loyal to the company, so happy and honored to be a part of that company, and it breathes. All that comes out of them when they meet other people or talking to customers and all this kind of stuff. That DXP is not just a company; it is this unbelievable company, and when we can provide all of the various services, we can provide them using very good people that are going to be taking care of that customer, and the customer recognizes that guy is a guy, that gal or guy that I can trust this person. Okay, anytime that I need something, I'm calling this person because they come through for me all the time. You can't have 100 customers and have that kind of service for your customers,
Hmm.
but you can have 20, 25 customers, and you can really dominate those customers and get a much bigger part of their share of their business because you're there all the time. Somebody calls you, it's
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning, I'm up, I'll be there in a half an hour. So that kind of stuff, you can teach, but it's hard to enforce.
Right.
Okay, they got to
Yeah.
want to do
Yeah.
it.
So making sure, yeah, you're working with people or bringing people on and leaders who have integrity, who are really living what they are committed to, and then committed and developing the relationships also that have
Mhm.
depth and have, um, yeah,
Well, I
that.
don't know if I don't know if you can tell, but I'm positive DXP. I'm like, this is the greatest thing. Being a part of DXP is so much better than a lot of the other things that I did. I had some things I did in the military that I'm very proud of, but I'm really super proud of growing this division the way it's been growing. I think it's around 1.2 billion, to be honest. Right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I want to continue to do it. My wife is like, "When are you going to retire?" And I'm like, "Hey, and she's really not doing that, by the way. I made that up. I'm sorry, but I'm sure she's thinking about it. But I'm having a lot of fun, and I believe I'm getting results for the company, and I believe that if David and Nick and anyone else didn't think I was, they'd probably be asking me, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I love that too, that attitude, and working with other people who have that same attitude where it is fun and you're proud of something that you're building. And I think it's
Yeah.
easier and way more enjoyable to build an organization when you have an attitude like that. And
I think one other thing, and this applies to the employee that leaves there every 2 years. That also might be a result of not really proving to that employee that you have their back. Okay. Don't worry about a thing, brother. I have your back. Okay. And, um, I hope that I, make that clear to all of the people that rely on me. Okay. And because when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if that's do something for you, I'm going to do it. And the minute I stop doing that, I should be fired.
yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well,
So
because it impacts a lot of people, right?
yes,
If you
it does.
don't. So, well, Skip, thank you very much for joining me today. Your story is a powerful reminder that loyalty, integrity, and long-term mindset sets still matter, especially in business. For listeners who'd like to learn more about DXP Enterprises or connect with you, what's the best way they can reach you?
They can reach me. Well, first of all, our website is www.dxpe.com, they can learn a lot about DXP just by going to that website. My email address is skip.giessing@dxpe.com if they have questions or want to talk to me for whatever reason. And those are probably the two. That's probably the best way.
So, website or email? Well,
Either.
again, yeah, thank you for sharing your time and your insights with us. For our listeners, make sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.